So I am so excited to welcome back a really good friend of mine, also a nutrition coach, Coach Ali. She's with AFit Coaching, and she is awesome at helping moms over 35 get lean for the last time. I love that tagline because you put a huge premium on metabolism and making
Mm,
sure that women, especially women who are used to dieting all the time and chasing lean and chasing skinny and stuff like that, when it stops working, well, that's when you might need a metabolism renewal, and that's what Coach Ali specializes in.
yes,
And
thank
I'm
you.
excited to have you here to talk about this topic today
Mhm.
because this is the time of year when a lot of women, especially those of us that are over 35, get into this season and we start to freak out a little bit because
Mhm.
it's like eat-a-thon season during the holidays. You've got the gatherings, you got all the food, you got all the stuff you got to do, you got all the stress. And the big fear among my clients, I'm sure among your clients as well, is, oh my goodness, how do I get through the holidays and not gain 10 pounds? So I thought you'd be
Mhm.
the perfect person to talk to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So my big question for you is, how do you personally, as a nutrition coach, as someone who loves to stay fit, as someone who's very mindful, with all these things, how do you approach eating over
Mhm.
the holiday season? Like, let's give me a
Yeah.
peek into your world.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing, especially like just for me, my history and like the way I try to help my clients more is like just really eliminating that dieting mentality in general. Because the more your mindset is in a dieting mentality, the more that you feel restricted, the more that you have
Uh-huh.
fears around food, the more you're like, I can't have this and I can't have that. And I would go into every holiday season back in my dieting, like, strict, severe dieting days, and I can remember this being like, all right, I'm not overdoing Christmas. I'm not having any dessert. I'm not having this. I'm not having that. Right. And there were some holidays I did it and I felt so like accomplished. But then it's like, why did I do that to myself? Right. Like I'm missing
Right.
out on like the joy and the Christmas cookies and whatever. So once I started to, and now I think a lot of the work has to be done prior to that season so that you can come into the season. Oh no, my kid's school's calling.
Oh no, we'll pause it for just a second.
Okay. So yes, I think that, when we try to work like like we want to like release the urgency in general, which is not easy for most women to do around like the weight loss and the fat loss and obviously feeling more comfortable in their skin, especially if they have a strong dieting history. But doing a lot of work outside of the holiday season, this way you set yourself up for more success. But I also think that nobody really, not to say nobody, but like don't put yourself into weight loss and fat loss during the holidays. Yes, like it's only 2 days or 3 days, but like what comes with the holiday season. So I think when clients have permission to know, okay, like what is it really? A month's time, when you think between like Thanksgiving and this and New Year's per se, like 4 or 5 weeks, what is that in the grand scheme of your transformation, of your lifestyle habits, of feeling the best in your skin? So if, what is the specific question here? Is it like, all right, people have lost some weight and they don't want to gain it back and now they're hitting the holidays? Like, is that what we're talking here? I just want to like
Yeah. I
narrow
mean,
it down. So
it,
like,
there's so many things, right? So like, yeah,
mhm,
there are people, right? And I know that they're kind of different among my clients, but they all come down to the same thing. And that is fear of gaining weight, right?
yeah,
So it could
right,
be a person that is not dieting, not trying to, that hasn't been trying to lose weight, but they don't like how they feel and they already are unhappy and they're afraid that they're going to gain even more, right? So you've
right,
got that camp. And then
yeah,
they got the person that maybe has successfully lost some weight and now they're freaked out they're going to gain it all back. you
mhm,
know then there's the person that um maybe would like to continue to lose weight,
mhm,
or would like, is kind of in that weird place of either I've been trying to lose weight or I have lost
mhm,
a little bit of weight and I don't want to lose my
mhm,
momentum, and
mhm.
but I don't know what should I do,
Yeah,
right? And it all
right.
comes down to that same fear.
Fear of gaining
I'm
weight.
gonna get it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
lose it. I'm
right. And like
that.
we talk about, this usually comes down to like, our self-talk, the stories that we're telling ourselves. And then just knowing that no matter what, like your habits is like the way you're treating your body is the way your body's going to respond. So if you're just working on the habits in general, so you have a better lifestyle, so you feel better, so you're less bloated, you're eating more protein, like all of those things on a daily basis, like that shouldn't stop all year round anyway.
Right.
So, what I think once people start to make that connection and know that just those things in general help them feel better because they weren't doing them consistently. Um, that will not, like, for me at least, like I know when the holiday season rolls around now, I don't have anxiety around it because we're doing this work consistently. Doesn't mean we're perfect. It doesn't mean we're not going to have days where we overeat or things happen, but
Right.
we keep up with those non-negotiables, those bare minimum requirements that keep our body in a better place. It does take time though. So like for example, my metabolism is like way better than where it was 6 years ago. So now coming into like holiday seasons, like doesn't mean I won't feel it a little bit, but I don't have like this surge in a weight gain because I'm, on Optavia all year round. And then the holidays come and I'm like, oh, I'm going to eat this, that, and the other thing. And my body's like going haywire.
Right.
So, I think people just have to like really reframe their minds and understand the things that need to be done on a daily basis that's going to help their body, respond better. Because that the better you treat your body, the better response your body's going to have to you.
That's
So,
right. That's right.
yeah.
And to your point, especially I mean, this being, a metabolism expert and everything, when you have been treating your body like a lot and then you restrict and then you binge a bunch and then you restrict and the yo-yo comes from that.
Yeah.
That habit all the time. I'm eating everything. Oh, now I'm going to punish myself, not eat anything. Oh, I need to get that off, and then you're constantly doing this. Then when you go into the holiday season and your body's used to restrict, then whatever you eat, it's gonna show up on the scale a lot faster because your body doesn't know anything other than I'm either getting nothing and I've got to shut down and make it
Hmm.
work, or I'm getting way too much and I can't even process that,
Yeah.
it's like the floodgates, and neither
Yeah.
one are good for your body. Your body can't handle either situation.
Right.
Um,
So I think it's like it's such an individual kind of assessment per se. Like I find like when I start clients and I'm like, listen, it doesn't matter what time of year you start. The people that actually start during the holidays where they're like having the most anxiety around it, like, it's the busiest time of year kind of, and they're like, should I really do this? It's like you always want to encourage them to because it's the best time for them to learn better strategies and have better tools around this season because it's just going to set them up for more success as they go. And next year can be even better. But I think people just have to adjust their expectations. So depending on where they are going into the holiday season, so, is going to give them what kind of outcome they're going to have. So if they're in this really strong dieting mindset, like, you're going to have to work to undo that. This is not the best time to try to be in weight loss. So when they can flip that side of their brain and have, kind of lower their expectations, they can handle it better. But if like, I'm in weight loss right now and like holidays are coming, like you're just going to be more tempted to want to have things that you are going to deem that you can't. But this also ties back into, we talk about this food exposure therapy and just like having permission to eat things like you can't ever avoid everything. So when you have more things on a consistent basis, when the holidays roll around, like the cookies aren't going to be just like staring you down as much if you have them here and there.
right.
I just actually had a conversation with a client who was just a newer client, just literally starting like probably 3 weeks in, and very very strong dieting mentality. And one of the first things she said to me on the phone was like, I only try to work on habits now in the first like 3 to 4, maybe even 6 weeks,
Right.
because throwing macros and calories and all this stuff on people, which is great, like they don't even dial in their habits. They don't even know how much protein they're eating. They don't know how much fiber they're eating. They're just used to either dieting or not dieting, right? So she says to me, this is probably bad, but like I've been having turkey and cheese like on Dave's Killer Bread for lunch. And I'm like, why is that bad? What's wrong with that? And like they get so
What people
confused.
call are bad, like I'm just pause for a second, coach moment. Isn't it amazing to you what people call bad?
I'm like, that sounds great.
Turkey and cheese on Dave's
Yeah.
Killer is bad. What planet are we on where that's
Right. And it's
bad?
like, they think like the cold cuts, like they're horrible. And like, all right, yes, or we have better quality food and some that are a little less quality, 100%. But is that one meal of your day, and maybe it's a little less quality, but the rest of your day is pretty good, then like, what's wrong with that? Because it's probably the difference of you getting that protein in, and balancing it out and controlling those calories to maybe I didn't eat lunch and now I'm starving and now I'm binging and it's 4 o'clock and now I'm just eating all this crap.
Right.
So let's put that into perspective. And I think that's just really what a lot of people have to work on, as you know, is like how they talk to themselves, the stories they tell themselves, the way they're looking at food. And then when they're going to the holidays, like it doesn't, it's a free for all because you're restricting yourself in some manner.
You have
So
too many rules. How can you, like, if you're used to that level of dieting rules of, I can't have cold cuts, I can't have bread, I can't have this, I can't have that. And now you're confronted with all the things at a holiday party, and
mhm.
and you can't, contort through the hoops that you've set up in order for it to be okay.
Yeah,
That your
yeah,
only choice in your brain is, screw it, might as well eat. And then if
right.
you go, screw it, might as well eat for one night and you get a free pass, you get like a
Mhm.
hall pass.
Yeah,
What are you naturally
yeah,
gonna do? Eat all the
yeah.
things, because we aren't gonna get a hall pass again until like who knows when. So
Mhm,
eat it
mhm,
all, right? Like you're just literally setting yourself up for a binge for no
mhm,
other reason than you're like a rebellious toddler
mhm,
that has a
mhm.
night of freedom, and you
Yeah,
eat all the things and you can't stop eating because the freedom will go away.
right. And I think it's just it's such like you said, like you broke down like the three scenarios of like women basically. So like that's to me like the typical dieting person that they really have to adjust their expectations and learn how to not think about like it's that all or nothing mentality kind of thing. Like how do we live in between? How are we okay with just like maintaining where we're at and working on these habits and like
Right.
enjoying this holiday season, right? Maybe fat loss comes after. Um, and but then there's these people that they can't even rein in their habits. Like they're more on the side of like, I'll just eat the ice cream. I don't care. Like they don't want to feel overweight. They don't want to be overweight, but they really have a hard time controlling what they're eating, right? So that's like two different sides of the spectrum. So people like that going into the holiday season where they need to learn more self-control, um, you're gonna have to coach them a different way, or obviously like have them set their season up a little bit differently, have them focus on the good, right, as opposed to
Right.
like you're thinking everything's bad so now we're telling you it's good. It's
Right.
confusing a little bit.
Well, and you know what? A lot of times, because I have those clients too,
Yeah,
um, where it's like, I just want to go crazy. It's like, well, and they're used to that. But a lot of times they want to go crazy because everything's bad, right? So it comes back even if you haven't been dieting and you just, struggle with discipline,
yeah.
actually don't, chances are. It's
Hmm.
just that your mind, and you've been setting yourself up for failure for so long, that if you're not allowed to have anything, what are you going to naturally want to do? You're going to fight with yourself until you finally cry uncle and say you can have anything you want, and then go, versus like really, really learning how to eat and be satisfied and be allowed,
Hmm.
which is a whole, like you said, that's the training that has to happen outside of the holidays,
Yeah,
because there's
yeah,
a whole new way of changing your relationship with food. And I'm kind of
right.
curious, because you have had this kind of before and after of, before I used to go into the holidays dieting, right? And food was a restrictive thing. And
Hmm.
now I no longer have that perspective. How did you break down those barriers for yourself? Like, what was the change that happened for you mentally?
Um, I think so. It was definitely an overtime process. So like, it just I've noticed and can look back on the fact that it doesn't bother and affect me as much as it used to. And I think it was just going through what I needed to go through, like releasing that urgency, not dieting. Obviously learning, flexibility and structure. Like that's where macros come in, calories and macronutrients and doing that whole process like for me was life changing because all I knew was food rules.
Uh,
All I knew was the next meal plan. Like that's just the way my brain worked. Like, or I was just a very severe calorie counter. So once I stopped all that and was able to have that structure, which is how I explain to my clients, like people sometimes have such fear and anxiety over like logging their food, but I'm like, we need to just build awareness around what you're eating and what your habits are, and that's what this process is. It's not supposed to be like, oh god, like I have to log my food today, blah, blah, blah. Like I get it, it doesn't always work for everybody, but I know for me that really helped me bring in more like ease my mind of knowing like I can have this today, I could build this in my day. So the more and more I did that, and then I kind of transferred into that intuitive eater, like I learned from what I've done and now I use that tool when I need it. Or if I'm like, I need a little bit of fat loss this season, then I can go there. But for the majority, I stopped dieting. But because the habits were, I was focusing on the right things, like strength training more instead of doing HIIT and boot camps and so much cardio and walking more and just, eating within the right parameters for myself. And then my body started changing. It, it all just kind of fell into place. So, I still struggle though. Like I definitely still have moments where, you're like, oh God, I feel so, like you wake up and you just like went out to a restaurant the night before and, you ate a little bit extra or you had some dessert. Like everybody feels it. So, I
Yeah.
don't think it's just like 100%, you just never going to have fear or anxiety around it, but you just want you want to be able to navigate out of these thoughts faster,
Yeah.
than than you used to. So I think for me, that's what happened was I stopped the dieting because I just started seeing positive changes to my body over time because I stopped having this goal of like, I have to be in this type of shape by this date.
Oh
I
yeah.
stopped the end date
The
cycle.
endless end dates of how
And I
much
just started doing the same things every day that like I knew I needed to do and that made me feel my best. And then once you like tweak things a little where it's like, okay, like as you know, the best thing to do is not be in fat loss for long periods of time, right? Or like the endless, like we're low calorie dieting is like the perpetual cycle.
it'll make you
So
fatter. We'll just give you the Cliff's Notes version.
right.
That makes you
So
fatter in the end.
yeah, and I ended up being okay knowing that it was going to take me longer to see my body change, even though, it was hard at moments, but I was able to enjoy more because it started having the opposite effect on me where being so restrictive for so many years had affected my mental state so badly that once I kind of stopped being so restrictive, it was really hard to go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you feel this way, but like fat loss is not an actually easy place for me to go because I can very quickly like get anxiety about that mindset.
Yeah.
So
I
it's a
hate it.
very
I
it's a
absolutely hate dieting. 100%.
right, right. That's
Only
all I
do
used to
it,
know.
only do it for short stretches, like a month or
Yeah,
two max,
yeah,
then I'm out.
right,
I can
exactly.
be very focused and disciplined and move that needle well for like short periods of time,
Hmm.
but it's because I don't live there all the time anymore.
Yeah,
Same as you. It's just my body does better,
yeah,
maintain where I'm at better, and
right,
I just like my life. I
yeah,
just don't want to say no to
exactly.
food all the time.
Right. So the way I frame it to people too is like, wouldn't you rather just have 70 to 80% consistency and know that you're going to enjoy your life and your lifestyle and be able to like have some dinners out and have a cocktail and have these things and you're going to, maybe you see this 10 pounds come off over 6 months instead of 3 months. Wouldn't you like that better? Wouldn't it make you happy? You're still seeing progress, but like you're enjoying your life at the same time, as opposed to like, let's give everything up. And then, I got this weight off, but now I'm miserable because now I just can't feel like I have anything. So that, again, going back to our like holiday season, you're subjected to more things. Obviously, more holiday parties, more traditions, more cookies, more whatever you're doing. And it's very easy to have those fears come around. But also remember, I always say everything's temporary. So even if you do spend a couple of weeks eating a little bit more than you normally would, you have to tell yourself, like, I don't have to stay here. So if you're starting to feel a little anxious around it and you're feeling a little uncomfortable in your skin, you have the power to change that. So we're adults and we control what we do. We control what we put into our mouths. Um, and that's it. So sometimes we just have to have those hard conversations with ourselves too.
Yeah. I love, so like to sum up some of this stuff, like it sounds like the big changes for you happened over time when you put more structure
Yeah.
in. So by having
And less
structure with
rigid dieting.
macro tracking and saying, oh, I have a balance, like a budget, like I do for my money, right? And I'm going to, here's my
Have a
budget.
sandwich today. Like nothing's gonna happen to me. I built more
Right.
trust around food.
Yeah, so I can eat whatever I want. I just have a way of managing so I know where I'm at, right? And by building these habits by creating structure with eating and
Hmm.
continue, then you approach the holidays, it's no big deal. It's just I'm doing my structure and I might
Hmm.
have one or two new occasions where I can enjoy a little more, but it doesn't change. It's not like your whole life changes or you become a different person when you go to the party.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people really do. They struggle with letting food have too much power over them. And I used to be one of those people. Like I couldn't, and sometimes I still have this tendency. Like I'll stay around the dessert table. Like I might not even want it, but it's like, why am I standing here? You know what I mean?
Right.
Just like I need to be around the food that because honestly, I still want to be healthy. Like I don't eat crap all day long. Like I hate to even use like the hard like the good food versus bad food type thing. But for the majority, you still want to make your body feel good. So, but I still have way more like my bad eating is somebody's like, you know,
Perfect
whatever.
day,
Yeah.
probably for,
um,
for a lot of people. Yeah.
right. But again, like if you have the mentality and you have fears around food and just like you have a strong dieting background, I don't think it 100% goes away. And you just have to, be stronger than your mind sometimes. Like, and depending on what your goal is and where you're at and what you're doing, you just need to know what are the strategies I need right now to get me through the season, and that's very individual.
Yeah. 100%. I love that. It's so helpful. And I think what's great is just hearing the struggle and hearing how like you coach this because you've lived this.
Hmm.
It's so easy for someone to see you at a party and just be like, oh, well, she's skinny. She doesn't have these problems. No,
Hmm.
no. Wait, like when you're fit, sometimes you're more neurotic.
Hmm.
Sometimes you're worse of a judge.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're standing there thinking everyone's judging me worse, right? So
Well,
it's
people think too, like you're a nutrition coach, like, oh my God, look at what I'm eating in front of her. And I'm like,
you're right. I hate
if you
that.
only knew what I eat sometimes, it's like I feel like I'm we're in this space trying to undo a lot of this damage for people. Like I'm not that like, okay, here we go. We have to eat your protein and veggies and everything. Yes, but like, we wanna make people feel more comfortable around food for the most part. So it's funny when I hear those things, or I hear people being like, they'll be eating something, they'll be like, I really shouldn't be eating this right now. And they're like shoveling it into their mouth. And I'm like, you notice the things that people say to themselves because
Sing them
this
out
is
loud, and you just want to give them a hug and say, you don't have to think like this anymore.
yeah,
Because yeah,
exactly.
it's not helpful. I
Right.
love it. I love this discussion. How
Yes.
can people find you on social media, on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm just under my first and last name, Allison Foronjy.
I'll
Right? Yeah.
include I'll include
Yep,
your
that's what I am. And
social
I
links in the write up in the show notes and stuff.
yep, yep, yep. I just try to have a mix of, here we are, some nutrition content but I like to like I don't like to be so rigid. Like people come at me because they're like, you'll have a diet coke. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like it's not the worst thing ever, right? So come over to my page if you want to have less stress over the things that people think that you can't have,
I
I
love
guess.
the content you put out because it's very real, it's very honest.
Mm.
And I think a lot of times dieters don't want to believe that it's honestly just this,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just consistency, develop consistent habits over and over and over and
Yeah.
over again. And eventually you get
Yeah.
there. It's not
Yeah.
overnight, but
Yeah.
eventually you get there. But I love that you have a 90-day program that you can, you help women with their metabolisms, with their
Yeah,
fat
I start
loss.
with that. I start with the 90 days. I like to I'm happy to chat with you about this, but I like to see like, is this working for you and is it working for me before I invite you to continue or give you that, like offer you that spot in that next container. And then also people can get a taste of coaching and I can see is this person a right fit for me too because it's coaching is a two-way street as you know and it only works on communication really.
That's right. Yeah, you got to have trust. You have to have
Yeah, absolutely.
You are a fantastic coach. I just love your content. I
I
love
love
your
yours too.
guidance.
You always have such good the mindset with you and what you put out there is amazing. So keep doing
Well,
it.
a lot of people can tell you like the macros this and the protein this and
Yeah,
give
all day long. Right.
all day long,
Right.
but if you don't have a mind that can put that strategy into place consistently,
Yeah,
then it's not going to work.
exactly.
So
Right.
that's
I
you're
tell
the
people
best,
that all the
right
time. I'm like,
stuff from
listen,
us.
this might not work for you. It might work for one client and it might not work for you. So, what do you feel like is going to work for you best? And let's figure that out together. So,
100%. Awesome. Well, thank you for
oh,
being
thank you, Angela.
have a happy
You
holiday.
too. I'll talk to you and message me whenever you want.
You got it. Bye.